beyond blood and bone, engineering life that never dies. The first human who will never die may already be alive today. And when that moment arrives, everything you understand about life will begin to break. Not slowly, not gently, but all at once. Because for thousands of years, death has never been optional. It has been the one rule no one escapes. The final line in every story. The quiet certainty behind every heartbeat. No matter who you are, how powerful you become, or how far humanity advances, it always ends the same way. Until now, something has changed. Not in the distant future, not in imagination, but here in our time. Inside silent laboratories, behind closed doors, scientists are no longer just studying life. They are beginning to redesign it. Cell by cell, code by code, limit by limit. And for the first time in human history, death is no longer just accepted. It is being challenged. Not with myths, not with dreams, but with science. The kind of science that doesn't just heal the body, it rewrites it. Think about that for a second. A body that doesn't break the same way, cells that don't age the same way, a system that repairs itself before damage can spread. This is not about living a few extra years. This is about stepping beyond the natural limits of being human. Because aging was never designed to be stopped. It was something we were meant to accept. Every wrinkle, every weakness, every final breath. But what if those limits were never permanent? What if they were just unsolved problems? Right now, researchers are learning how to slow down the damage inside our cells. They are learning how to repair what was once irreversible. They are learning how to keep the body stable, longer than ever before. And piece by piece, they are moving toward something that once sounded impossible, a version of life that doesn't end the way ours does. Not perfect, not invincible, but something new, something engineered, something that exists beyond blood and bone. But the deeper we go into this idea, the more uncomfortable it becomes. Because this is not just about fixing the human body. It is about redefining what a human body even is. For centuries, we believed life had a fixed design. You are born, you grow, you weaken, you fade. That cycle felt untouchable. But now that cycle is starting to crack. Scientists are discovering that aging is not a single process. It is a collection of small failures happening over time. DNA damage, cell exhaustion, loss of communication between systems, tiny errors, building up silently, until one day the body can no longer recover. But if aging is made of problems, then in theory it can be solved, one layer at a time. And that changes everything. Because solving aging does not mean making humans immortal overnight. It means extending control. Control over damage, control over repair, control over how long the body can continue. And once control enters the equation, limits begin to disappear. Right now there are experiments where cells are being reset, not replaced. Reset, pushed back to a younger, healthier state, as if time inside them was partially reversed. At the same time, scientists are working on growing organs outside the body, not artificial machines, but real living tissue, hearts, livers, skin, built in controlled environments, ready to replace what fails. And then there is another frontier, one that feels almost unreal. The idea of designing life from the ground up. Not just repairing what exists, but creating something that was never bound by our original weaknesses. A system that does not degrade the same way. A structure that does not collapse under time. A form of biology that learns, adapts, and survives differently. At that point, the question becomes impossible to ignore. If we can redesign life, are we still human? Or are we becoming something else? Something engineered, something intentional, something that no longer follows the rules that shaped us. And maybe that is where the real tension begins, because every step toward perfection moves us one step away from what we used to be. And that shift is not just scientific, it is deeply personal, because the moment life stops being fragile, it stops feeling the same. Right now, every human decision is shaped by time. We rush, we choose, we love, we fear, because we know it won't last forever. But if that pressure disappears, what happens to meaning? What happens to urgency? What happens to the quiet importance of a single moment? Imagine waking up knowing you have centuries ahead of you. Not years, not decades, centuries. Would you still chase your dreams the same way? Or would you wait? Would you still say I love you today? Or assume there is always tomorrow? Because when time becomes unlimited, delay becomes easy. And when delay becomes normal, purpose begins to fade. That is the hidden cost no one talks about. A life without an ending may also be a life without direction. And yet, there is another side to this, a hopeful one. Because if humans are given more time, we might finally have the space to grow beyond survival, to learn deeper, to understand more, to build things that take generations of patience, art that evolves over lifetimes, knowledge that compounds without interruption, connections that are not cut short by loss. For the first time, humanity could move at a different pace, not rushed, not desperate, but intentional. And maybe that is where this future becomes beautiful, not because we escape death, but because we transform how we live. Still, one question refuses to disappear. Who gets this future? Because technology is never equal in the beginning. It starts limited, expensive, out of reach for most people. If life can be extended, if aging can be slowed, if death can be delayed, then access becomes power, and power creates division. A world where some people live far longer than others is not just a scientific breakthrough. It is a social shift, a line drawn between those who can continue and those who cannot. And history has shown us those lines never stay peaceful for long. So this is no longer just about biology. It becomes a question of fairness, of ethics, of responsibility. Because once humanity unlocks the ability to extend life, there is no turning back. And that is where everything begins to converge. Science, power, time, human desire, all moving toward a single point. A future where death is no longer the default ending. At first, it won't feel dramatic. No sudden immortality, no instant transformation, just small changes. People living a little longer, recovering a little faster, aging a little slower, almost unnoticeable. Until one day, it isn't. Because there will be a moment when someone doesn't age the way they should. A moment when time moves forward, but their body doesn't follow. And that is when the world will realize something irreversible has begun. From that point on, every year will widen the gap between the old definition of life and the new one being created. Some will call it evolution. Others will call it interference. Some will see hope. Others will see danger. And both will be right. Because this future is not purely good, and it is not purely bad. It is powerful. And power always reshapes everything around it. Families will change. Generations will overlap in ways we have never seen. The idea of growing old together may no longer mean what it once did. Love itself may feel different when time is no longer running out. Will relationships last longer or become easier to walk away from? Will commitment grow stronger or weaker? No one knows, because we have never lived in a world like this before. And maybe the biggest change will not be in our bodies, but in our minds, in how we see ourselves. Because for all of human history, we have defined life by its limits. We measured time. We counted years. We accepted endings. But in this new reality, those boundaries begin to blur. And when limits disappear, identity begins to shift. If you are no longer racing against time, who are you? If your story has no clear ending, what defines your journey? If your body no longer reminds you that life is fragile, will you still feel human? Or will something essential begin to fade? That is the quiet question beneath all of this. Not whether we can outsmart death, but whether we can remain ourselves if we do. Because beyond every breakthrough, beyond every lab, beyond every engineered cell, there is still something we cannot design. Meaning, purpose, the feeling that life matters. And those things were never created by science. They were shaped by time, by limits, by the knowledge that nothing lasts forever. So if forever becomes real, we will have to rediscover what gives life value. Not because we are forced to, but because we choose to. And maybe, the choice will define the next chapter of humanity. Not the end of death, but the beginning of something far more complex. A world where life continues, but meaning must be rebuilt. From the ground up, one decision at a time, one life at a time, until finally, humanity stands at a question it has never faced before. If we have the power to never die, do we truly understand how to live? And maybe, that will be the greatest challenge of all. Not surviving forever, but deserving it.